act like I'm Messiah. Man, I make mistakes, no be kumbaya. Hakuna Matata, but I aim high. You never speaking for this. Your story never updates. Girl, I fall I see your face, but I'm 1,000 miles away. Fire, fire on me. Fire on me. Put your desires on me. Come with the fire, mommy. Fire, fire on me. Fire on me. Put your desires on me.
All right, it's exactly 1600 Central African time. Good afternoon and welcome to Africa in Business on Channel Africa, the African perspective. This is where Africa's opportunity meet insights, analysis and impact. But first, let's check out what's happening in the world of news.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Innocent. Top stories this hour. The WHO urges innovative financing to address 2025 health funding shortfall. And Boston Globe suspends a print amid snowstorm. Good afternoon. The World Health Organization's call to countries to mitigate the health funding experience in 2025 is to opt for what they termed as innovative financing. The world body says the financing is not a one-size-fits-all and would depend on the specific country. However, Africa Regional Director Dr. Mohamed Yakubu Jadnabi says he has seen ministers of health changing priorities. He adds that health is not a cost anymore and it has to be high in the budgets of countries. Janabi was speaking on the sidelines of the second day of the joint meeting of SADC Ministers of Health held in Johannesburg, South Africa.
There are a number of things which can be done. Debt for health swaps. You know, the amount of money the continent is paying in servicing debts which we took from the Northern Bloc. In some countries, I can combine the education and health. Still, the money they are paying for servicing is higher. So we need to discuss with our partners in the Northern Bloc the debt for health. We have to bring the private sector in the play, the civil society, the philanthropy. It cannot be things like local manufacturing. We encourage all the governments. The political commitment is there, but they should look also on the business part.
A medical charity in Sudan says 28 people have been killed in an attack by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF in Mastariha in North Darfur State. The Sudan Doctors Network said that the only health center in the area was destroyed in the attack. Local media says the RSF had targeted a tribal leader who had switched his loyalty from the RSF to the army. Local reports say he escaped the attack. And Human Rights Watch says South African authorities have not adequately protected whistleblowers from violence and murder as they expose corruption within government and state enterprises. The government urges the need for effective investigations, or rather the organization urges the need for effective investigations to hold accountable those responsible and deliver justice to the victims and their families. Deputy Director at Human Rights Watch, Ashwani Budu-Schultz.
We've also seen in South Africa how there has been attacks against human rights defenders and whistleblowers. And case in point is the murder of the whistleblower for the Matlanga Commission, but also there's also the murder of Pamela Mabindi, the community activist and whistleblowers. And so this shows you the government has failed to protect those who are also coming out against other forces.
And two lakes in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Maidombe and Tumba, are said to be releasing significant amounts of ancient carbon, posing threats to climate stability. It was discovered that up to 40% of the carbon dioxide emissions from these lakes originated from peat deposits over 3,000 years old, rather than contemporary plant matter. This release mechanism, still unclear, may worsen due to climate change and land use changes, such as converting forest to cropland. The Congo Basin's peatlands, despite covering only 0.3% of the Earth's land, contain one-third of the carbon stored in the tropical peatlands, highlighting the need for further research on this critical ecosystem. And the Boston Globe newspaper in the United States has announced it will not go to print for the first time in its 153-year history due to the snowstorm that's brought large parts of the U.S. East Coast to a standstill. More than 80 centimeters of snow had fallen in parts of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, including Boston. 600,000 homes and businesses are without power. The largest storm disrupted transport across several states. A recap of your top story. The World Health Organization's call to countries to mitigate the health funding experienced in 2025 is to opt for what they termed as innovative financing, saying the financing is not a one-size-fits-all. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headlines, South African Sports Minister will not reconsider the budget cuts, and the UK gambling firms could be banned from sponsoring sports teams. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Business, trade, and investment opportunities that put the continent first. Africa in Business with Tami Ngubeni.
It's exactly 16:06 Central African Time. It's 4 p.m. Today, it's the 24th of February 2026. Good afternoon. My name is Innocent Semosa, standing in for Tami Ngubeni, and welcome to Africa in Business on Channel Africa. Coming up this hour, we're hearing that Mozambique is set to receive $6 billion in financing from the World Bank Group over a period of 5 years. And the Special Investigating Unit, SIU, reveals that South Africa's immigration system is operated like a marketplace. Well, we are broadcasting live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, South Africa. We are on DSTV, audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenView on channel 628, and you can stream us live on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as the SABC Plus app, available on the Google and Apple Play Store. Join the conversation by finding us on X at Channel Africa 1, Facebook at Channel Africa, on Instagram at Channel Africa 1. You can also stream us and subscribe on our YouTube channel, that is Channel Africa 1. This is Africa in Business on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
60 years of Channel Africa, your trusted voice, your African perspective into the future.
All right. South Africa's authorities have failed to protect whistleblowers who expose corruption and criminal activities in government and state-owned enterprises from attacks and killings. This is according to Human Rights Watch. The organization says authorities need to conduct effective, prompt and impartial investigation to hold those responsible to account and to ensure justice for the victims and their families. Nhlanhla Mahlangu has the details.
President Cyril Ramaphosa first made the commitment to finalize the whistleblower protection framework and introduce the Whistleblower Protection Bill in Parliament during last year's State of the Nation address. Human Rights Watch says 1 year later, this has not happened. It says during the State of the Nation address on the 12th of February this year, President Ramaphosa repeated a previous commitment to introduce a new whistleblower protection bill in Parliament, but the bill has not been passed. And as the killings in 2025 of two whistleblowers, Mpho Mafule and Marius van der Merwe, demonstrate, whistleblowers cannot afford more unfulfilled promises. Ashwanu Badu Scott, Deputy Africa Director at Human Rights Watch, says the scale and frequency which whistleblowers are attacked and killed for exposing criminal syndicates and corruption is alarming and raises serious concern for their safety and protection in South Africa.
We've also seen in South Africa how there has been attacks against human rights defenders and whistleblowers. And case in point is the murder of the whistleblower for the Matlanga Commission, but also there's also the murder of the community activists and whistleblowers. And so this shows you the government has failed to protect those who are also coming out against other forces.
Whistleblower attacks in South Africa have a long history, with many whistleblowers over the past 2 decades being victims of targeted killings or abusive attacks in retaliation for exposing corruption and criminality. Mzwandile Panjatwa, campaign coordinator at Corruption Watch, says whistleblowing is central to countering corruption and improving transparency.
So it's very important that whistleblowers continue to be protected so that they are able to bring matters that are important forward.
In 2023, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development issued a discussion document proposing reforms to the whistleblower protection regime, which highlights the Act and other related legislation could be strengthened. Proposals included expanding the definition of whistleblower beyond the employer-employee relationship, shortening timeframes for investigating a disclosure, improved measures to keep a protected disclosure confidential, making it an offense not to act on a protected disclosure, establishing a mechanism to help whistleblowing with legal assistance, and enhancing the powers of regulatory bodies such as the South African Human Rights Commission to deal with protected disclosures. Human Rights Watch says South African authorities cannot afford to recycle empty promises because the lives of whistleblowers are at risk. The organization says the South African government urgently needs to translate the commitment into concrete actions, and these include a prompt passage of the Whistleblower Protection Bill and the implementation of comprehensive safeguard for the whistleblowers, such as the effective witness protection. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
All right, that was Nhlanhla Mahlangu with the news that are currently making headlines in South Africa with regards to corruption in the country.
Using Scholar Transport comes with responsibilities. Every learner has a role to play in keeping themselves, their friends, and the driver safe. Stay seated and behave responsibly. Avoid shouting, pushing, standing, or moving around inside the vehicle at any time. Think safety first. Remember that safety starts before the journey begins and continues until you are safely off the road. Good behavior saves lives. Your actions matter. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
All right, let's look at this story now. South Africa's Special Investigating Unit, SIU, has revealed that the country's immigration system was operated like a marketplace with permits and visas effectively sold to the highest bidder. Investigations show that a small group of officials exploited the system for years, enriching themselves by accepting permits, or should I say payments, in exchange for issuing visas and residence permits. Now, the SIU has also traced financial gains exceeding $11 million linked to fraudulent visa applications, many of which were supported by fake documentation. For a reaction on this, we are joined on the line by Lebogang Ramafoko, Executive Director at Corruption Watch. Ramafoko, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to Channel Africa.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Indeed. Thank you so much for making the time. Under the circumstances, maybe let me begin by asking you, what's Corruption Watch's take on the SIU's findings in corruption at Home Affairs, and are the findings indicative of, systemic governance failure within the department?
Oh, absolutely. I think we are appalled by the findings and sadly not shocked, because users of Home Affairs have repeatedly spoken about how bribery is the order of the day at Home Affairs, and how the system really is rigged against those who want to follow proper processes, where people will wait for documents for a long time and they are waiting and frustrated until they then have to pay a bribe in order to facilitate documents that are really for free. So we welcome this probe by the SIU that seems to be quite thorough in even fingering how much money has been lost through this process. But really and truly, it just shows how systemic corruption is. It is not about a few individuals doing wrong. It is about a collapse of a system completely.
Yeah, but I can say that it does seem as though South Africa is trying to root out corruption. I mean, we have been removed from the grey listing, the FATF. It does seem as though we're making progress in that front. But in making progress, what impact does fraud and corruption at Home Affairs have on the integrity, Lebogang, of South Africa's identity and immigration systems?
Well, it means that from various levels, we don't know who we have in South Africa. We don't know if somebody has submitted fraudulent documents, for an example, claiming that they are a professional of any sort, whether or not they indeed are a professional or they are operating in South Africa under false pretenses. It also means that the issue, like the case of Omotoso, says that vulnerable people are going into these churches, vulnerable, seeking for answers, seeking for some psychosocial support, some spiritual support, and they may be open to risk. It means that within the country, we may be having wanted criminals. We may be having people, who are exposing the entire country to risk, who may be in the country illegally. It means that we've got a system that is illegal, and it almost reverses the gain of being removed from the grey list, because it tarnishes our image. We then do not know what else are these documents being used for to conduct business in South Africa and open churches. And so it has become a gateway for a lot of wrongdoing that I don't think anybody at this point in time, once you have facilitated entry, fraudulently speaking, you are able to control the consequences thereof.
Would you then say that they're doing this because they're not paid well, or this is pure corruption?
It's corruption and greed, and the fact that there is no oversight. I mean, when you listen to all of these cases, it means that there are people who then realized that Home Affairs is no longer a government entity. It is now a place where you can go and run your own illicit business. So, in fact, the salary is facilitating wrongdoing. You are then paid a salary, you've got an access card, you've got access to whatever documents are needed. But in some instances where the minister was talking about a number of people using the same bank accounts, it's also showing you what happens when you don't invest in systems that are cutting edge, because people are going to run away with you. So even when there is no corruption, one person or 11 people can be processing documents that look very legit, but in fact, when you put them to scrutiny, you realize that they are fraudulent because 10 other people have used the documents. So the lack of accountability and the lack of investment, the kind of corruption that we see is not isolated, and it's not even about lack of accountability only. It is about lack of investment in cutting-edge technology that will enable that as the wrongdoers, the thieves, get sophisticated in what they use, you are also sophisticated to pick up what is happening. Every system must have checks and balances, especially a system that is as important as Home Affairs, because the issue of Home Affairs is also the issue of state security. There is the issue of making sure that we are safe as a country.
Right.
And so when a person at a level of a Home Affairs office can run a fully fledged business using state resources, they have threatened the safety
Indeed.
of the country.
Now, Ramaphosa, given that millions of rands exchange hands in the sale of permits and visas, how important then is lifestyle auditing and consequences management in preventing future corruption at Home Affairs? You just spoke about sophistication and systems. I want to pick it from there. Do you perhaps also believe that we have the ability, the capabilities as a country to really do this lifestyle audit?
You know, lifestyle audits in themselves are not going to solve the problem if there's not going to be follow-up. I think part of the report was saying that some of this money is hidden in, businesses that are opened in the names of girlfriends, of wives, of children, and family members. And again, it's going to need those people who can really do thorough investigations. But what are the consequences? I mean, what was a little bit encouraging yesterday was that the department was speaking about, how many investigations, firing. But a lot of people on social media were also talking about, for this kind of fraud, are there people who have really been given warnings, So yes, do lifestyle audits, but have the kind of sophisticated forensic investigators and data analysts who are able to track the money, and they should be able to track the money in a way that all of the associated people with this particular person, are being investigated as well. And whether or not that capacity exists is left to be seen. But what is the accountability? However, I also think that now that we have seen where the loopholes are in the systems, who we recruit, how consistently and often are we checking what they are doing, how they rotate? I mean, there seems to be a value chain of corruption within the Home Affairs unit, I don't think all of this happened. I want to believe that this happened when other people were able to turn the blind eye. Who are those people? And what in the system permits that supervisors and other people are turning a blind eye? Are we having competent people? Are we having systems where they can be so rigorous that there could be, rotation?
Yeah.
There could be other systems where, in fact, it is impossible. How do the people know over 10 years that if I went to Ramaphosa, they are going to facilitate my visa? But Ramaphosa was left unsupervised. Nothing was done about what they were doing, to a point where they established, a system of corruption within it. So a lot of how Home Affairs is being run and what supervisory and analysis is done, forensic analysis is done within the department, is what is in question right now. And we would want to see what those changes are going to be going forward.
Right. Lebogang Ramaphosa, Executive Director at Corruption Watch. Thank you so much for indeed making the time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, there you have it. Indeed, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. We heard that recently. We've seen how entrenched corruption is in the South African government. Does SIU investigation reflect a need to improve the anti-corruption framework in South Africa, or are they reacting, or rather than preventing the situation of corruption in the country? So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. That conversation brings us to exactly 16:23 Central African time.
All Scholar Transport operators are required to comply with the following mandatory requirements. All required licenses and certificates must be renewed annually for minibus taxis and biannually for buses in accordance with applicable regulations. Overloaded, unroadworthy, or unlicensed vehicles will be impounded without exception. Every vehicle must be equipped with an appropriate and fully stocked first aid kit at all times. Routine safety inspections are compulsory for all vehicles providing Scholar Transport services. Compliance Compliance with these requirements is non-negotiable and is enforced to safeguard the lives of learners and all road users. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Now, Mozambique is set to receive approximately $6 billion in financing from the World Bank Group over the next 5 years. Now, Finance Minister Gala Luviera says the funding will support economic growth through key development projects and initiatives aimed at accelerating national progress and creating jobs. Now, the financing packages comes at a time when the country's public finances are under mounting pressure, with the International Monetary Fund cautioning about deteriorating debt dynamics and rising fiscal risk. For more on this, we are joined on the line by policy and research advisor Helio Gulichi. Gulichi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for making the time.
Hi, good afternoon. It's always a pleasure joining and sharing our perspective on how our country, our world is developing.
Indeed, we really appreciate you making the time. Maybe let me begin by asking you, what does a $6 billion financing package mean for Mozambique's economy over the next 5 years?
Well, these packages means several things for the country. From the government perspective, I can say that it can be seen as a victory for the current government economic diplomacy, given the fact that the country's situation is not ideal and the terms of both internal and external debt are really, really bad. So it is worth that to remember that Mozambique was rejected by IMF recently, which set off alarms bells behind the executive branch. So knowing the operandus modus from the Bretton Woods institutions, I think that we need to think and rethink carefully and analyze the context to understand how these loans, disguised and foreign aid can help to lead the country into a stagnation. So personally, I don't think that it can be something to celebrate unless the terms of these loans have been discussed in a different way than before. So I'm very shy and skeptic in the sense that it can undermine the country development more than helping overcoming and take off from the country.
Indeed, Gulichi, and we're hearing that this is a concessional funding, a type of funding offered on more generous terms than market loans. And of course, it usually supports development projects and in lower and middle income countries. Do we know which conditions are tied to the World Bank's financing, and how are they likely to affect fiscal policy in your view?
Yeah, ideally, I will say yes. Every kind of loan can support country development, but I see more risks than benefits from these loans. In terms of political economy, if I bring the last 50 years after the independence, where the country had to abandon the socialist model and embrace the capitalism. What emerged were new elites who controlled the state and start impoverishing the country. So the entire industrial park structure of the country collapsed from this time with IMF and World Bank loans. And today, the country imports even a toilet paper, a basic food, and this shows that the fiscal and monetary policies adopted from the independence to now, it has not been creating and generating a social and economic impact.
So in other words, Gulichi, sorry to cut in. In other words, are you saying the risk emanate from political uncertainty?
Definitely yes. Definitely yes.
All right. And how important then is this funding in stabilizing an economy still recovering from debt distress and external shocks?
It can be really, really important in the sense that government themselves, if they adopt a kind of sustainability approach, which will consist on transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption fight. But the issue of sustainability is one of the most worrying in the country, as the country does not enjoy as much as international credibility due to hidden debts that incurred in the past, and also because the high level of corruption that the country that is controlling the state. So it is a huge risk, and unsustainability must emerge. So the risk of political, social, and economic instability is also part of this negotiation. So I'm very shy in the sense that it can conduct the country in a situation that it has to mortgage part of natural resources and postpone this very much desired takeoff in terms of economic and industrial development.
Yeah, Kulichi, as we hit the home stretch of this conversation, the finance minister says that the concessional funding or financing is mainly for its public investment projects. The question then is, which sectors are likely to see the biggest boost from this funding?
Well, looking in the country situation, I think agriculture, infrastructure, and even enjoying the huge coastline that Mozambique has. I think these areas must be seen as areas of prioritization, and also areas that can, in the near future, produce some kinds of revenue. Looking at the water resource management resource, that capacity that the country has for agricultural purpose, which can feed part of the continent. In terms of fish resources, also sea resources, it can be very, very much appreciated. And also do help the country do the shift from natural resource dependent to a kind of economy that can sustain after the resource stage or era. So I think infrastructure, agriculture, and fishery can be seen as areas of prioritization. But the situation in the country may also deal with other areas that are not that much sustainable, and the country is not prepared to deal with. So let's see what will come, and if the World Bank will have the strong hand to sustain, to control corruption, and to require the government a huge fiscal and monetary transparency deals.
Just before I let you go, you spoke about political uncertainty. What are some of the policies that you advocate for to make sure that what you just mentioned, the issues around agriculture, seas and infrastructure, that really does benefit from this financing? What kind of policies do you propose?
If we're still a country that is hugely dependent on natural resources, obviously the price of commodities will determine our current stage. So my understanding is that we have to invest on this shift, this turning a kind of transition from natural resource, from oil, gas, resource dependent country to a country that produce to feed themselves. Our demographic pyramid is growing day after day, and more than half of our population is youth. So we have to look at this stage. We have to look into the youth and project how we want to be and where we want to stay to be in the next 50 years, 13 years, or so on and so forth. So this shift is very important if we assume that the country must not be dependent on natural resources. The diversification issue is very important.
Helio Kulichi, Policy and Research Advisor. Thank you so much for indeed making the time.
Thank you so much, and I'm available for the next conversations.
Thank you. Thoroughly contact you. Thank you so much for indeed making the time. That conversation brings us to exactly 16:33 Central African Time. You're actually listening to Channel Africa, the African Perspective. We will now go to market indicators with Nosipo Zulu.
Business news on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Good afternoon. I am Nosipho Zuma. In your business indicators, the SAWA, $1 is trading at 15 Rand 99 in South Africa, and Botswana is trading at 13.04. In Namibia, it is trading at 15 Namibian dollars 99. The Zambian kwacha is trading at 18 kwacha 85 to the US dollar. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 127 shilling 83. In Ethiopia, it is trading at 154 birr 96. In Uganda, it is trading at 3,000 shilling 570. In Tanzania, it is trading at 2,000 shilling 562. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 342. In Egypt, the dollar is trading at 47 Egyptian pound 66. In Tunisia, it is trading at 2 dinar 866. In Algeria, it is trading at 129 dinar 13. In Morocco, the dollar will cost you 9 dirham 02. In Angola, the dollar is trading at 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is trading at 2,270 to the US dollar. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $5,520 and platinum at $2,763 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $69.93 a barrel. Now, for any stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
All right, thank you, Nosipho Zuma. Let's look at what's happening in the world of sport with Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you and good afternoon, Innocent. Let me begin with football news and gambling. Gambling firms not licensed in the UK could soon be banned from sponsoring sports teams, including Premier League clubs, under new government proposals. Ministers say the crackdown is aimed at tackling risks linked to the unregulated market, from weak customer protections to links with organized crime. A consultation will launch this spring following warnings last year to several clubs over ties with unlicensed operator TGP Europe. Culture Secretary Lisa Nendi says fans deserve to know betting sites are properly regulated with safeguards firmly in place. And South Africa's Minister of Sports, Gayton McKenzie, has rejected claims that he favours football above other sporting codes in the country. The minister recently allocated $312,000 to the South African Football Association to assist with salary payments for Banyana Banyana, and also confirmed financial backing for Bafana Bafana ahead of the international friendly matches against Panama national football team. In addition, he has committed further funding to support Banyana's preparations for the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Despite this, McKenzie has dismissed suggestions that he gives football preferential treatment, describing such claims as hogwash.
My brother, rugby is an example of how federations should be run. We help all federations. There's no federation that can't say we don't help them. Soccer is the sport of the majority. That's why you see soccer is more prominent. 80% of the questions you ask me here was about soccer. If you look at sport, majority of people watch football. So it just happened that football, it might look like it is the only one getting attention. No, it is not. All federations are getting help.
The minister has also reiterated his commitment to women's football. After providing SAFA with $312,000 to cover Banyana's salaries, he confirmed that additional funding will be made available to ensure proper preparations for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco.
We have given Banyana money. December, when the salaries couldn't be paid, they gave SAFA 5 million rands. Not this December, last December, because they couldn't pay the salaries of Banyana. We then, when they came back, we gave them a bonus. Last night I spoke to the coach of Banyana. We were also giving them money in helping them with the preparation for the WAFCON in Morocco.
Bafana Bafana are scheduled to play 2 international friendlies against Panama between the 27th and the 31st of March as part of the build-up to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Mackenzie confirmed that he paid undisclosed millions to ensure the fixtures take place.
100%, they're going to get massive support from me. We have paid for Bafana Bafana to play against Panama. We can't just play against local people. When we complain to SAFA, why you only play against local teams? There's no money for it. So then we said we'll pay, get the international team. They got Panama number 30 in the world rankings. So Panama is coming, we paid that money for Panama. So we are not a federation that we want to see. If you can, we gave SAFA money and they managed to show us what they did with the money. Now we're taking them step by step. And we do that with all the federations.
And lastly, Jacob Bridgman didn't just win his first PGA Tour title at Genesis Invitational. He did so at a signature event and one offering of the largest paychecks of the season. Bridgman banked a cool $4 million for his victory, surpassing $5 million for the 2026 season and crossing $10 million in career earnings. For stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa in business.
All right, a very big thank you to the news desk. Let's look at this story now. The 2023-2024 Global Entrepreneurship Monitor report reveals that South Africa's early stage entrepreneurial activity, TEA, has fallen below pre-pandemic levels. Now, the report notes that many individuals turn to entrepreneurship out of necessity, seeking income in a challenging job market. But for those who choose to start their own businesses, it is recommended that to make it a habit to understand the economic environment in which they operate, anticipate potential challenges, identify hidden opportunities, and navigate uncertainty with greater confidence. To further unpack the reality of leadership and entrepreneurship in South Africa's current economic climate, we are joined on the line by Nelly Lester, founder and managing director at WS&Co Advisory. Nelly, good afternoon and thank you so much for making the time.
Good afternoon and thank you so much for the invitation.
Indeed, Nelly. I mean, we're talking about entrepreneurship. They face many challenges in Africa, be it weak currency, crippling economy, or lack of funding, to name a few. What are some of the biggest pitfalls entrepreneurs face today, and how can they better prepare for them?
I think entrepreneurship first is for the people who really have the courage and the competency. So what we are seeing at the moment is that people are skilled or have preparedness, capacity to do that which they're setting themselves up to do. The challenge that they're facing is either the market component in terms of where to get their products or services to, or secondly, the infrastructure. But the critical factor that we deal with at WS&Co is the person themselves. So what we tell our clients is that one is prepared, you have the market analysis, you've got the economic outlook, but the one thing that prepares you most to conquer the entrepreneurial journey is what you do as a person in terms of your own self-guiding as a leader. And so looking at the systems that you need for your business, but you need to also prepare yourself for the systems that you need to lead yourself. So in other words, yes, there's preparation to conquer the world and to send your products out there, but your ability to survive in this very trying and testing environment is how you're leading yourself. And what we do is support leaders to be able to not only look outward, but also to be able to look inward so that they can prepare themselves to face those challenges head on.
Now, Lester, I'm keen to know, how has the current economic climate in South Africa affected early stage entrepreneurs, particularly those starting out of necessity?
The ones who are starting out of necessity, obviously, either they have suffered the consequences of the change in the market, being shed off in the jobs or being let go in terms of businesses changing their strategies. And the challenge that will face them economically is an infrastructural one. So if you're starting out as a young entrepreneur or an experienced one, is how do you get the infrastructure to get your business going? What is your connectivity? What is the electricity, energy efficiencies that you might need, depending on the business that you're in? And so those challenges are real, particularly for those who are operating in South African cities, for one, which is closest to us. But even for the rest of Africa, the same challenges remain. So mobility, transportation, all those factors that you have to ensure that you have clarity about before you can see your business realizing the goals or the objectives that you've set up to do.
Indeed. And what qualities do you think are most important for leaders to navigate uncertainty and guide businesses successfully in today's market? And do you believe also that entrepreneurship is a skill? It's either you have it or you don't, or it's a skill that you can learn? What are some of the qualities do you think are most important?
I think at WS&Co, what we do encourage our clients is to think about, as an entrepreneur, to be flexible, to be adaptable, to be resilient. And what do you have to do as a person in order to be able to be adaptable, to be flexible, to be open to opportunity, because things change very quickly. The business environment can turn very quickly as well. And so if you don't have the flexibility or the adaptability, then you might find yourself on the wrong foot. So we support leaders who are managing their companies or their businesses to think of themselves as being agile. Look at the characteristics that makes for an agile individual. You can look to nature for that. If you look at even think about the animals, lions, for example, the agility, to catch their prey. And those are the qualities that we do think that leaders in this kind of volatile environment would need to be: adaptable, resilient, flexible, and also to be able to move with the times. Change is constant. Change is always with us. And how do you then navigate when things are changing around you and remain on course? Because you need to remain on course. Yeah.
Indeed. I mean, you hit it on the nail. Adaptability is key in the era of artificial intelligence. But in your view, how can entrepreneurs shift from the necessity-driven entrepreneurs that we have been discussing to opportunity-driven approaches in the current economy?
One is to be very open. They call it being able to read the weather. So you look at the external factors. Often entrepreneurs only look at what is happening inside their business. And sometimes it's quite helpful to be able to look outside in order to change internally to respond to what the weather, climatically is saying outside. So let's say you see the storms coming, but you are still building up for summer. Obviously, you need to say, how do we cover ourselves so that the storm doesn't, kind of affect us? So risk elimination is one way, or preparing for risk is one way that we do encourage our clients to be able to look at. So when you look at your business, you're starting out, it's important to investigate all the risks that are coming up your way. And it's not so much in terms of avoiding them, but finding ways of mitigating those risks. So how do you manage those obstacles before they occur? Because you still want to head to the direction that you're going. You only want to remove the obstacles and still stay on course, as opposed to stopping your journey altogether.
Indeed. Nelly Lester, founder and managing director at WS&Co Advisory. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much.
There you have it. She's saying that adaptability in the world, in the new world of AI, is pretty much important for entrepreneurs. That conversation brings us to exactly 16:48 Central African time. Let's look at this story now. South Africa's Tourism Minister, Patricia de Lille, officially opened the trade floor earlier today at Meetings Africa 2026. This year marks 20 years of the continent's premier business event, trade show, bringing together buyers and exhibitors from across Africa and beyond. Our reporter, Leboang Mabange, has more.
Meetings Africa 2026 kicked off in Johannesburg, South Africa today with a strong message on the economic power of the business events sector in South Africa. Speaking at the official opening, Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille highlighted the event's growing contribution to the country's economy.
Over the past 3 years, the economic impact of Meetings Africa on our GDP in our country has nearly doubled from 371 million to 690 million in 2025. And also during this period, over the past 3 years, Meetings Africa was able to create and sustain at least 2,600 jobs.
The minister also emphasized the scale of this year's event, which is attracting buyers and exhibitors from across the globe.
This year, we are joined by buyers from 53 countries around the world. And this really continues to show confidence in our continent, confidence in our own ability as the continent of Africa. Because in total, we also have 375 hosted buyers with us and 325 exhibiting companies here today with us.
Countries across Africa are using the platform to promote tourism and investment. The Zambian High Commissioner to South Africa, Grace Mutembo, says the event is key for attracting financing and partnerships.
For this platform, we are marketing Zambia as a destination for investment in tourism sector. We are looking at expanding our infrastructure in terms of conference facilities, in terms of bed spaces, that is hotels, lodges. So we are looking for financing institutions that can come and invest in some of our projects that we've already prepared.
Similarly, Eswatini is showcasing its unique cultural and business opportunities on the 20th anniversary of Meetings Africa. Nondumiso Mkwanazi is the communications manager at Eswatini Tourism Authority.
We're here on the 20th anniversary of Meetings Africa. It's been a while that we have been exhibiting and showcasing what Eswatini has to offer from the domestic, regional and international stand. It's very important for us in the sense that it's not just the culture that we are showcasing of Eswatini, the rich culture that we are showcasing in Eswatini, but we have an opportunity in terms of businesses of locking in MOUs, deals that could actually help generate the tourism industry revenue in the country.
With 2 decades of connecting Africa's business events industry, Meetings Africa 2026 is proving once again that the continent is open for business. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Johannesburg, South Africa.
All right, it's that time of the afternoon where we welcome Joël with Vue d'Afrique. Good afternoon. What
Bonjour.
can we expect? Bonjour.
Bonjour Innocent, ça va?
Ça va bien.
Très bien, merci. Bonjour à tous les auditeurs de Channel Africa. Sur Vue d'Afrique, tout à l'heure, nous parlerons du Tchad qui a décidé de fermer sa frontière avec le Soudan. Et nous parlerons également du ouf de soulagement à Uvira et à Bujumbura puisque la frontière entre les deux pays a été ouverte. Et au Cameroun, la dépouille d'Anissé Kané sera enfin remise à sa famille pour inhumation suite à la levée des restrictions judiciaires. C'est tout à l'heure sur Vue d'Afrique. Merci de rester connecté. Merci Innocent.
Merci. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be listening.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
Now, ahead of Wednesday's budget speech in South Africa to be delivered by South Africa's Finance Minister, we look ahead on what's in store for small, medium enterprises in this week's Standard Bank slot. We look at the role of SMEs play in driving the economy. For more on this, we're joined by Lien de Wet, Head of Business Banking Converge in the Eastern Cape province for business and commercial banking at Standard Bank South Africa. Lien, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to everyone.
Indeed, really appreciate you making the time. Perhaps let me ask you, why is the upcoming national budget speech so significant for SMEs this year?
I think all ears will be on the ground tomorrow. We want to hear how the government is going to execute on the SONA commitments they made to SMEs with detailed implementation plans. The President pledged quite a lot of money to support SMEs in the following fiscal year. But we need to know, how is this going to be deployed to create real economic impact for entrepreneurs? Without practical delivery mechanisms, the SMEs will remain stuck between good intentions and the tough trading environment.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, the South Africa has been pushing for fiscal consolidation. I would imagine that investors will be closely watching whether or not South Africa hit the call towards fiscal consolidation. The president also highlighted that SMEs is the key driver of employment. How realistic is this vision in your view, Leanne?
Very much realistic. I think, as we all know, SMEs carry 50 to 60% of the workforce, and therefore are very important for us to provide them with the right support. We need to unlock barriers such as limited funding access, slow payment cycles, and the regulatory hurdles. And these are meaningful to address through the budget speech tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed. So in your view, what are some of the main challenges SME face that the budget speech needs to address? I mean, I would imagine that funding has been top of the agenda now. We're also seeing entrepreneurs starting businesses because of necessity. What are some of the main challenges that SMEs are facing today?
I think first and foremost is what we hear often is the constrained access to affordable funding. We need to be able to support our SMEs in growing their business, and they don't always have the working capital at hand. There are also complex regulatory requirements imposed on them, and also slow supplier payment cycles. You know, small businesses can't afford to wait for 30, 60, 90 days for payment for work done, and we need to lessen these payment cycles so that they can get money in a lot faster. And that will help them with managing their cash flows. And the budget must therefore focus on streamlining these processes, improving the funding pathways, ensure SMEs know how to access the funding that's available, and then also accelerate the government payment cycles themselves.
Leanne, let's talk about your mandate as Standard Bank. What role do financial institutions like yourselves play in supporting small and medium enterprises' growth? I mean, their growth is your success as a bank. What are some of the, what are you doing to help and support small and medium enterprises?
100%. I think financial institutions are essential partners to SMEs. And I think even the smallest of businesses needs a good, reliable banking partner. And banks must offer access to responsible funding solutions coupled with support, cash flow tools, risk management assistance, and just beyond lending, banks need to help entrepreneurs build resilience. At Standard Bank, we look at providing digital banking solutions to help SMEs start, manage, and grow. We also like our SMEs to look beyond the borders of their immediate environment and offer access to trade corridors such as Africa-China, global partnerships, and also expertise in trade agreements. Supporting SMEs through our Enterprise Supply Development Program, also very important. All banks have the Enterprise Supply Development Programs, and it's important for us to access these funds that are allocated to these programs on an annual basis. I think the worst thing is for these funds to go unspent, and it's critical for us to engage our SMEs and ensure that we provide them this support.
Leanne, just before I let you go, what are the current trends that you're seeing in South Africa's small business sector?
Businesses are really driving innovation and resilience in the small business sector. They are increasingly embracing digital tools such as e-commerce platforms and mobile payment systems. I think mobile payments are becoming a critical part of a small business. It's no longer a heavy cash-laden environment as it was in the past. I think it's become a high risk to carry cash. So mobile payment solutions are very important. And we're seeing small businesses expand their reach. It's becoming easier for them to operate without the immediate borders and also modernize the operations, no matter how small. And I think entrepreneurs are extremely creative and they can adapt and grow despite challenges like limited access to finance and formal markets. And I think tapping into the tailored solutions that are available to them can only turn everyday challenges into stepping stones for growth and long-term success for our small businesses.
All right, Leanne de Vet, thank you so much for indeed making the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, that brings us to the end of today's edition of Africa in Business on Channel Africa. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the trends, the deals and the decisions shaping Africa's economic future. Remember, the continent's growth story is still being written, and we'll continue to bring you the insights behind the headlines. From me and the entire team, have a productive evening and keep building Africa's